Women who gave nice guys a chance. How did it work out? He seemed a bit shy but goofy, smart and genuinely kind when he approached me, so I agreed to go out and we hit it off at first. Deep, meaningful conversation about our personal challenges, him quickly meeting my friends and me being the first person he called a family emergency. We were both pretty vulnerable, but things were seemingly progressing somewhat well. One day, he was on Tinder in bed next to me, and when called on it, he said that dating me had made him realize that he needed more confidence and experience with women, and thus needed to date a lot more people, but that he only effed the others at their houses, so I was obviously his number one. I freaked, cried, and broke things off. He called me the next day to casually ask me out to the new Hunger Games movie. I got an STD, screening the next week. He harassed me at work for another 6 months. All the guys I have known or dated that felt it necessary to label themselves nice guys turned out to be awesomely awful humans. Either they had a bad temper, horrible morals, or just didn't want to take no for an answer. One even turned out to be an emotionally abusive alcoholic. The actual nicest guys I've dated or called friends were the ones who didn't feel the need to label themselves nice guy. In fact, the best of them usually warned me and others that they were not all that nice, but always turned out to be the sweetest, most understanding, appreciative, and kind guys I've had the pleasure of knowing. Went on and on about what a great, compassionate guy he was. He was actually just your garden variety abusive psycho. He once said to me, "I wish you had been abused so you would realize how great I am." What the F? Who says that? He went out bowling with his friends, and then when he came home, he complained to me that for the first time in his life, a hot girl had hit on him while he was out, and he was unlucky enough to actually have a girlfriend. He seemed strangely sad he had to turn her down, and expected me to be grateful he did it. He proposed to me after we worked on a group project. When I turned down this guy I barely knew and definitely never dated, he stalked and harassed me for about half a year until he found his next true love. He was a serial proposer. Ted Mosby? I actually didn't give him a chance, but I was talking to my guy friend Andrew in the break room at work one day, and another guy jumps in the conversation with a "Hey man, what's up?" to Andrew. I assume they must be coworkers. After that, he proceeds to stop by my office every night on his way out to make increasingly awkward small talk. I mention that I have a boyfriend, true, but he keeps coming anyway, looking for anything to talk about. "Hey," pointing to the cartoon on the box of cereal on my desk, "it looks like we're both into anime." "Nope, I'm just into generic Lucky Charms, dude." I try to be friendly. Then he escalates into things like, "Does your boyfriend come take you out to lunch every week?" "No? You deserve someone who treats you better than that." He offers to build me a better desk. I decline and get a, "Geez, I'm just trying to do something nice for you." I tell him these conversations are making me uncomfortable, and when I'm at work, I'm working. He gives me a, "Geez, I was just saying hi on my way out." I close my office door. He keeps coming and knocking. I keep the door closed and wave him off. He gives me flowers for Valentine's Day. I go to my friend Andrew and ask him if he'll tell his coworker to F off. Turns out Andrew has only ever talked to him that one time in the break room. We look him up in the company directory and the guy works 2 floors below me, so I'm not on his way out. Eventually, I called corporate security and they had a talk with him and his boss and deactivate his badge access to my floor. Not well. He was funny and friendly in public, but turned into a different person as soon as we were behind closed doors. He was basically your textbook abuser, manipulative, controlling, and demanding. He wanted to do some really weird and degrading, to me, sex stuff and acted like I was the psycho for not wanting to. He'd make angry comments like, "I'm just trying to be romantic and you keep freaking out." I got out of the relationship before he could hit or rape me, but no question that was what the future held. Oh, and he still insisted that he was the nicest guy I'd ever met. Went on a brilliant date, had the best time. He came back to mine because he said he couldn't get a taxi. I put him on the sofa and he came into my room in the night and tried to have intercourse with me. I pretended to be asleep, hoping he'd stop. He didn't. He fell asleep with his hands on my boobs and his hard-on my back. Then in the morning, he left and never spoke to me again. Edit, thank you for all the messages. Luckily, the troll messages were deleted before I saw them, so they have not caused any bother. I did not report to the police, although I am aware it is assault. I was raped a few months prior to this and I fought back and ended up physically hurt. So to me, lying still and shutting off felt the safest response. He was lovely and funny on the date, just made me build an extra wall to protect myself further as I clearly have poor judgment on this stuff. Thanks to everyone for fighting back to trolls on my behalf. He was always nice to me but very easily jealous anytime another guy spoke to me. We were just friends and only went out once, yet he felt like he needed to make me feel bad whenever other guys gave me a little attention. He also had a horrible drinking problem and serious anger issues. And the whole time he was trying to woo me, he was also hooking up with his ex and ended up getting her pregnant. So yeah, no regrets about that. He was a friend of a friend. We went on a date and it just didn't click. Last thing I heard from him was a long rant about how immigrants were stealing his chance to get a girlfriend because girlie like being mistreated by evil Muslims and the nice guy is forever alone. That's when I felt like I dodged a bullet. We met on Tinder and he convinced me he was such a nice guy and he was so misunderstood, the typical sob story. He fetished me with old photos, tried to convince me that I had autism and we would be an amazing autistic couple. I finished the date, politely making conversation while waiting for my half of the check. At the end, I wouldn't let him walk me to the car. I walked him to the bus stop and waited for the bus to drive off before I left. When I told him later that night that we really didn't have chemistry, he begged for another chance. He told me he was really depressed and had to see me again because I helped him to feel happy. This is 110% emotional blackmail and I fell for it. We met again. I was really uncomfortable the entire time, but he tried to insist that I was the one for him if I would just meet him closer to his place. He kept trying to grab my waist and hands despite me saying no. I was weirded out and eventually said goodnight. He went in for a kiss, but I ducked and walked the long way home. He threatened suicide later that night and showed me his giant scar down his arm from when he had been unsuccessful previously. I freaked out and blocked him. He messaged me on Facebook a week later telling me that he thought we had chemistry and he hadn't friended me yet because he thought it was creepy, so he waited and was messaging me as a final attempt to court me. It was a wild ride. He was the nice Christian guy I thought might be a change-up from some of the effed up boys I'd been dating. Well, he was insecure as F as it turns out and constantly negged me. He was also a pathological liar. He once told me I had told him I did believe in Jesus even though I explicitly told him I was non-religious when we started dating. When I broke up with him, I told him he treated me like crap and that I was a good catch. At first, he was very charming and lovely to be with, but he became extremely controlling very quickly, telling me what to wear, how to do my makeup, claiming all the typical nice guy things like you're prettier without your makeup, etc. This was only 3 weeks in, and when I called it off with him, he begged me to stay and claimed he was just protecting me from the F-boys out there and started spewing stuff about how girls never give nice guys a chance. Whatever, man, I'm out of here. I was with a nice guy once. He was absolutely incredible, but he had clinical depression. Unfortunately, it got the best of him one day and he just ghosted. I haven't heard from him since. I have no regrets though. He has a lot of qualities that I'd want in a mate when I'm ready to date again. Had a nice guy on Tinder who didn't make it to the date for the following reason. He lived in a different city, so he insisted on an all-day date. Lives about 50 minutes away. I said I'm not comfortable subscribing to 8+ hours with someone I hadn't met yet, but he kept insisting I had to make it worth his while to come through. At this point, I said I can't see it going anywhere and it was putting me under pressure that made me feel a little uncomfortable, that realistically it may not work out, so let's just leave it. So then he says he's gonna book a hotel and come through. Explained that's sweet, but it's making me uncomfortable. So he says I can have the bed and he'll be a gentleman and have the sofa. I explained that he seems to have the wrong idea. I'm not going to a hotel with him and I feel uncomfortable. I don't want to meet. He continues to press, saying he is a nice guy. He won't make me have intercourse if I don't want to. I say I don't want to. I don't want to go to a hotel. I don't want to meet. It's too much pressure, and for someone I've not met, I feel uneasy. Thanks. Good luck with your search. But apparently, I need to give him a chance. He's willing to come all this way. I say no. He keeps finding new things to message me, uses my phone number to add my Snapchat, and says he can see what street I'm on. At this point, I start feeling very uneasy. I didn't know I had location on. I block him. He messaged on something else, so I say I've got back with my ex. I see my ex a lot, we are good friends, he's happy to have a word, so he starts going on about my ex had his chance and blew it. He is a much nicer guy than my ex. He will treat me like a princess and worship me and my ex has blown it, etc., etc. I tell him this is my choice. Thanks and goodbye. Please don't try to message me on anything else as it's not appropriate and I've already blocked on 3 things. Fast forward 4 months and I move cities. I get an Instagram message. It's the nice guy saying he's on my Bumble in this new city, and even though we haven't matched, it must not have worked out with my ex. He's using Instagram and can see I'm near the station. Is that even a thing? And we should go on that date I owe him. Blocked again. Had a friend stay over that night. He was charming, smart, funny, and successful. The personification of Southern gentleman with an adorable I can't technology quirk. Lovely Southern accent. Managed to accidentally block me for months at a time, repeatedly on phones that didn't have a blocking capability. Wouldn't tell me where he lived after almost a year. He didn't even want me to go to his city for a night out. It's the man's job to come to the lady. I dumped him, not because I thought he was cheating on me, but aside from the constant, "Oh, I accidentally blocked you," I came to the conclusion he was using me to cheat on a wife or long-term partner and wanted no part of that. Went on 2 dates. He tried to drop by my work to surprise me after the first one. Thought that was weird, but I was 19 and not wise to the ways of the world yet. On the second date, I told him that he seemed nice, but I wasn't feeling it. Dude started screaming at me to the extent that strangers had to intervene because he was using foul language and tried to grab my arm. To this day, I'm glad I ended whatever that was in a public place. I have no doubt he would have gotten violent if it had been otherwise. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel, press the like button, and don't forget to watch our other videos.